Started.
Sure. Thanks for that great introduction. Stefan, glad to have you here for session number 3 of our week-long experience. You and I had a chance to do a little bit of work together yesterday for the kickoff. What are your thoughts about that night?
So y'all, this has been amazing. A lot of folks know, all of us are sort of finding the angles that we're jumping into AI, finding out how we can learn and help others. But AI helped us to set up this thing, which is amazing. I'm sitting here using a phone and say, hey, we want to make this conference. It's going to be a week long. And just imagine this is our new world, talking to AI and having it help in conversations like that. So yeah, Husan, it's been amazing. Last night and this morning.
I'm
Incredible.
sad that I missed this morning, but hopefully we'll get a chance to do a debrief at some point during the week. But this one I thought was really important because of the topic and our speaker. So without further ado, it seems like we're right on time. What I'd like to do is encourage activity in the chat. Tangy's going to have a presentation for us. And so if we can engage each other, if you have any questions or things that we can do in the side chat, that would be fantastic. A great way to get the chat warmed up is just check in and let us know where you're from. So if you could hit the chat, let us know what part of the world you're tuning in from, we would certainly appreciate it and we can warm it up from there. But without any further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Tangy Frederick to introduce her topic.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It's a pleasure to be here. First, I just want to say hello to everyone. I had the opportunity to see the topic earlier today. And first, before I start to present, I just want to make sure you are able to see my slide that is up. Are you able to see my slide?
Yes, slide looks good.
Awesome, awesome. All right. So good afternoon to some people, good morning to some people, depending on where you're at. So today we're actually going to go over the importance of AI use cases for executives, decision makers, as well as entrepreneurs as well. But before I get started, I want to tell you just a little bit about myself and tell you a little bit about my background. So my name is Tangy Frederick, and I like to say I'm a recovering software engineer. The reason why I say that is actually I am a self-taught software engineer. I had a lead generation company and I wanted to teach myself how to program. So I taught myself how to program. And as I was teaching myself how to program, I started realizing that with programming, it opened up a completely different world to me and it gave me the ability to create. And so I said, you know what, I want to dive a little deeper. So I actually went to school and I got my degree as a software engineer. And then I started realizing when I had my degree as a software engineer that there were a lot of individuals who are in IT who are underrepresented, underestimated individuals, and it was difficult for them to find work. And that's really something that that touched me in many different ways because I was like, I'm underrepresented, I'm underestimated. How can I make a difference? So I started a software development company located out here in South Florida, and it started as a small software development company with about 3 developers and myself. And that was back in 2016. And we actually grew into not only doing customized mobile applications, CRMs, we actually grew into doing technical training for companies. So basically what that means is companies, they come to us and they say, hey, Creative Dev Software, which is my company, I would love for you to actually come in and teach and train some of our individuals who are already in the company different technologies, either it's emergent technologies or immersive technologies, or even technologies that they're using internally to help upskill their existing talent so that they don't have to bring in new talent to train them. You know, they're actually using the revenue to upskill their existing talent. So we grew from just software development to actually technical training as well. And then there was something else that really touched my heart. As a software developer, I started realizing there was a technology called virtual reality. And I started looking at that and I was like, you know what? Virtual reality and augmented reality, there's something there. And as I started realizing there was something there, I started realizing something else. Individuals who were Black and brown, they were kind of behind the curve when it came to developing these technologies, these emerging and immersive technologies. And so that's why I started Regal Unicorn, which is a charitable foundation where, again, there's underrepresented individuals where it's basically workforce development. So companies, they come to us and they say, hey, we want this application developed. It's an XR application, which is augmented reality or virtual reality, and we need it developed. So what I do is I actually put together cohorts where they can actually train on the different softwares that need to be developed. So that's the charitable side of things. So what brings me here today is actually, I've been exposed to AI for a while now from the software development side. And I really wanted to actually share a little bit more about use cases. And I wanted to share the importance of having a use case as an executive, as a decision maker, and even as an entrepreneur as well, when it comes to AI. Because I get so many clients that come to me and my company and they ask, Tangy, what sort of AI should we use? And that is such a loaded question because there's so many different tools out there, right? So when we actually go in, we talk about defining the organization's use cases that that can be used with AI instead of looking at it as far as, okay, what AI can we use? We look at it as far as, let's look at a use case that we can actually use, from a prototype standpoint, and then use AI from there. So artificial intelligence, it presents a transformative opportunity for businesses, again, C-suite individuals, decision makers, entrepreneurs, and it teaches them how to leverage the technology in a very effective and efficient way. So use cases are actually the foundation of how to align AI with an organization's specific goals. And that way you can actually ensure that it's being used ethically, and you can make sure it's being used in a way that that is beneficial for your organization. So what I want to do very quickly is I want to pull up this scenario, right? And the reason why I'm pulling up this scenario is and I'm just going to read straight from the slide. Okay, so imagine you're an executive, a CMO, or decision maker in an international enterprise, and you want to free up your time and you want to focus on high impact strategic initiatives to drive the company's growth. Now that's key right there, right? Because as executives, as decision makers, as entrepreneurs, we don't want to spend our time doing, doing the mundane things, right? We want to make sure we're spending our time on task that's going to have high impact strategic initiatives to actually drive the company's growth, right? So think about this scenario as we move on. So understanding the role of AI in business. So there's 4 things that is really important when it comes to understanding the role of AI in business. The first thing is optimizing your operations. The second thing is enhancing your customer experience. You also want to drive innovation, and you also want to mitigate risk, right? So let's go over optimizing your operations first. So AI can automate and streamline so many different processes. And later on in this presentation, I'm going to go over a few of the tools that can be used from an organizational standpoint with mid-size and large teams and enterprise teams as well. Because what this is going to do, this is going to help lead and increase the efficiency in cost savings, right? Because not only do we want to think about our bottom line, we also want to have that human connection as well, right? As executives and as decision makers, we don't want to lose that when it comes to AI, but we also want to take a look at the cost savings. So let's talk a little bit about the human aspect of it, right? We want to enhance customer experience. So some things that we could actually use is use AI-powered chatbots, making sure that they're personalized, using personalized recommendations. Now, not only from a customer standpoint, but also from a team standpoint. So if you're a leader of a team, also look at this not only from, I know I just have enhanced customer experience, but think about enhanced team experience as well, right? So you want to personalize those recommendations and those things that can help you connect with your team a lot more. And one thing that I get really excited about when it comes to enhancing experience is actually analytics, right? Analytics could help improve customer experience. It can help improve your team's experience and satisfaction, and also loyalty. Loyalty from a customer's perspective and loyalty from your team's perspective, right? Another thing, driving innovation. So the reason why driving innovation is so important is AI can actually unlock a lot of insights and empower your teams and empower the business to stay ahead of the curve. So really quickly, let me give you a quick scenario. So there's a company that actually that came to us a couple of years ago before AI was actually a thing. AI's been out there for a while, but this was about 5 years ago. And they wanted to actually help individuals who were visually impaired figure out what food was on their plate, right? So myself and my developers, we got together and we said, you know what can we do to help this, client who wants to help people who are visually impaired figure out what's on their plate. So we said, hey, let's stay ahead of the curve when it comes to AI. So we actually use something called TensorFlow, which is an AI library. This is about 5-6 years ago, right? So that brings up the point of, not being afraid to drive innovation within an organization. So what that also means is figuring out when you're driving innovation, how much time are you going to spend with driving innovation? Because you don't want that to affect your bottom line, right? A whole lot. You want to have a certain amount of time that is dedicated specifically to driving innovation. So we're going to go over a little bit later about the amount of time that you could potentially spend with driving innovation when you want to stay ahead of the curve with AI and use the correct AI tools for your use case. The other thing that's really important and that's spoken about a lot is actually mitigating risk. So AI can actually help you identify. Now, when you look at it from a use case perspective, right? Now we're looking at it from just a use case perspective, right? We're not looking at it from a whole organizational enterprise standpoint. Right now, we're just focusing and honing in on a use case. So how can AI address some potential issues before they escalate to an organizational vulnerabilities? So that's another reason why we want to look at, okay, when we look at this use case, let's look at it and figure out how we can mitigate risk just from this one perspective. So you want to identify relevant use cases for your organization, right? The 3 things that I have here is you want to have access, you want to access your needs. You want to evaluate the data. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. And you also want to align your objectives. So let's talk a little bit about accessing your needs. So you want to thoroughly understand your organization's pain points. When you put together this use case, what are the pain points? And I know I'm being very specific with a lot of this from a strategic standpoint. This is really extremely important when it comes to AI, because you want to use the right tool. You know the right tool to use, right? You could actually, once you find out from a strategic standpoint, and you'd actually take some time with you and your team to say, okay, let's figure out what our pain points are with this. What are the challenges? What are the opportunities to identify that could be most impactful when we use AI for this use case? The other thing you want to do is you want to take a look at your data, right? Take a look at that data. And a lot of times in huge organizations, sometimes we work with organizations that are here in the US, overseas, and Canada and other countries. And it's AI is great because it could parse through a lot of that data, and it could parse through that data very quickly, right? So you want to access that data, and you're going to find out what kind of data you actually need. And you want to have accessibility of the data. You want to take a look at the data to actually determine the feasibility of the potential AI case. And then you want to also remember we're still in a strategic kind of planning stage. You want to align that objective and ensure that AI is directly supporting the organization's specific goals and priorities. Again, there's so many tools out there, right? But when you do these three things, what you're doing is, instead of saying, what AI tool should I use? And because that question is so broad, you're actually honing down and you're really focusing in on the strategic goals, right, for that particular use case. And you're finding out, okay, how can AI be used for this specific use case? Because the thing you want to also keep in mind is different types of AI and different technologies can be used and should be used in different use cases, instead of using one, from a very macro standpoint. So align your use cases with your business objectives. And this kind of goes hand in hand. It actually links with the previous slide. So you want to articulate the objectives and the aim to achieve through implementing the AI use case. So now we spoke about it from a strategic standpoint, but now let's talk about, okay, how are we actually going to implement this from an implementation standpoint? And that is so key, right? Because we can plan, but from a from an implementation standpoint, how can we actually implement this use case throughout either the organization? And sometimes you're not using it throughout the organization. Sometimes it's for just one department, because that's the best way to do it. So, it's not a huge overhead. It's easier to do R&D. So you want to define that objective. And then the other thing over here is map cases carefully, right? So map your use cases carefully. When you identify your business objectives, so you could do it one or two ways, right? You can either have a mind map that shows, okay, these are the objectives. All right. So once you have what the objectives are from the use case perspective, you say, this is the use case. These are the objectives. Now let's map out what the different objectives are, so that we can then use the proper AI for this use case. Now, there may be cases where you're using, maybe I wouldn't recommend more than two different types of AI in a use case, because what you can do, you can have an A/B campaign, and you can say, you know what, in this scenario, when we mapped out this use case, we're going to use this AI. When we mapped out this use case, we're going to use this AI. And I'm going to talk about some different tools that we can use in the following slides. All right, I get really excited about this, and this is addressing ethical considerations in AI and implementation. So the 4 pillars that we have here is bias mitigation, transparency, and accountability, privacy, and data protection. We also have responsible AI and responsible AI governance. So let's talk about bias mitigation. So we want to proactively identify and address potential biases in AI systems to ensure fair outcomes. So I want to spend a little bit more time on this because this is very relevant to this week, right? This is, think about us, right? We're Black and brown, we're using AI. And so when we use any AI within our organization, whether it's, Microsoft, whether it's Oracle's AI, we really want to be mindful of, am I reaching out to this organization and to, certain departments to say, hey, you know what, we've used AI in this particular use case. What I would like as, someone that is using your tool either, and I'm not going to call out any specific companies or organizations. There's many out there who are developing AI, but you know what, company A, we know you're a huge company, and we are actually, we actually have 500 plus people in our organization, or even 3 people within our organization, and we're buying this. And we just want to reach out to you to find out how diverse your team is when it comes to developing the AI application, right? Because as we know, there's a lot of bias. There has been a lot of bias when it comes to AI applications and other applications as well. So, you know what, guys, we have the voice, and you may have other topics that touch on this, but even when we're prompting, or even when we are using, even when we're using AI, we want to make sure we're looking at it from different perspectives and reach out to these companies to find out, how diverse not only the development team is, but your DevOps team, the DevOps team, the team that's deploying, or the team that's deploying it, find out, we have the right to find out more about this information. And then the other thing is transparency and accountability. So we, during this use case, let me back up real quick. So I also think it's really important for organizations, no matter how big or small they are, to implement different policies within their organization, right? Because I know as long as we are actively and proactively putting together policies and procedures that are relevant to AI within our organization, we then have a lot more experience when we reach out to these organizations to say, hey, this is what we're doing, right? So looking at the transparency and accountability to establish clear policies, what you want to do in this use case, right? And when you use this use case, it's more of like R&D, which stands for research and development. You want to say, we're putting together these policies. And this actually goes into the 3rd pillar, which is privacy and data protection. So you want to prioritize the protection of personal data and sensitive data when it comes to AI initiatives. So we want to be mindful that we're not just putting in private information and saying, you know what, we're using this within our organization. But where is it being saved at? What server is this being sent to, right? And is it private information? So if we can internally as an organization, say, okay, let's check off the boxes with A, B, C. This is what we're doing internally. Now let's reach out to the companies and vendors that we're using to say, hey, this is what we're doing. We would love to maybe converse with you, have a conversation with you and or your team to make sure it kind of matches with us. Or maybe, just maybe, it may be something that they're doing that you can do internally, but because a lot of times it takes sometimes larger organizations to do things. There's a lot of red tape, right? Which is understandable because there's a lot of security. They want to make sure things get done right. You can ask them, hey, what are some initiatives that you have and that you're doing now? And that could be an initiative that you see yourself doing in the future. And it could be an initiative that you're planning to do now within your organization. And that brings me to responsible AI governance, right? Implement internally a robust governance framework. And that's what we were talking about, right? That internal framework, when you're using one use case, come up with that framework to oversee how ethical the AI is being used, and is it being used in a responsible way. So I'm just going to go through this slide quickly because I know I only have a few minutes, and there's some other slides that I really want to get to talk about some of the tools. But this really talks about being, a diverse development team. We know how important that is, right? You also want to address different barriers that are going on and adapt AI to actually help with those solutions. Within that use case, you can adopt AI to actually help with solutions. You can ask Gemini and ChatGPT, okay, what are some things that we can do? What are some solutions that we can implement to actually help underrepresented communities? And then also, I'm going to go into point number 4, empowering stakeholders, not only stakeholders, our employees, our customers, to actually contribute, right? Because the more they contribute to the AI that we're using within our use cases, the more we're empowered, and the more they're empowered, and the more inclusive it would be. I'm going to kind of move because I'm going to move to another slide, which is measuring ROI for AI implementation. So we spoke about all of this, right? And at the same time, it's really important to quantify it, right? So as executives, decision makers, and entrepreneurs, we want to quantify stuff to say, okay, what is the return on investment? Based off of the KPIs, what do we get from using AI in a specific use case? And have those, because initiatives are crucial for justifying the investment financially and the investment with time, and how does it align with the strategic goals? So you want to develop for your organization or your team a robust ROI framework that accesses tangible and intangible benefits of how this particular AI tool actually helped with this use case. And then I want to talk a little bit about this. So how do we start? Again, what is the objective? Okay. And then come up with one use case to start with, and then set up time for R&D and your environment. And remember, I said I was going to speak a little bit about how much time should potentially be used when you're looking at when you're zoning in and honing in and looking at one particular tool from, like, let's say, for instance, is a huge organization, one tool that you want to use with AI and with R&D, you want to spend anywhere from, I would say, about 10 to 15% of the time within, I would say 10 to 15% within 1 to 3 months, right? So what does that equal with, from a financial standpoint, right? So time as well as resources, individuals and so forth. So that's something that you want to keep in mind. These are tools. There are so many that I can talk about right now, but the reason why I want to talk about these are more enterprise, more AI enterprise assistants that can be used, and that's Microsoft Copilot and also Einstein Copilot. So Microsoft Copilot, think of it as a virtual assistant that can augment your productivity and augment a lot of your tasks, generate content, and actually provide data insights And it could actually be integrated into any Microsoft workflows. So it can help streamline your decision-making processes. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is actually Power BI. That's been out there for a while. Power BI is another Microsoft tool. It is phenomenal when it comes to data and parsing through a lot of data. So that's another tool that I don't have listed here. The other tool that I want to talk about is Einstein Copilot. So Einstein Copilot, a lot of bigger organizations and some smaller ones as well, they use Salesforce. So Salesforce is an Einstein Copilot. So basically what it does is it leverages the natural language processing and machine learning to assist your sales team, your marketing team, your service team. And it looks at the relevant data and it gives recommendations for your organization based off of parsing through a lot of that data. And so we're almost at the end, don't worry. So this talks a little bit more about Microsoft and Salesforce Copilot. So your sales teams could use it, marketing teams, customer service, cybersecurity department, your software development team could use it as well. And the reason why I kind of lean towards Microsoft AI products at the present time is because of their security. Their things are a little bit more secure than, companies that may be smaller, right? And then you have Einstein. This is a great tool for CRMs that could be used for sales as well as marketing. So that brings us to the end of the presentation. I would like to thank you so much for your time. You can also reach me on LinkedIn. This is my LinkedIn handle, Tangy Frederick, TANGY FREDERICK. You can actually reach me on my personal email. My personal website or my business website. You can take a look at those. I would like to thank you, and I appreciate being here with all of you today. Thank you so much.
Fantastic presentation. If you guys can come off, show some love, that'd be fantastic. If you're still in listen-only mode, you could drop an emoji as well. Do you have any time maybe for some Q&A, little dialogue with the attendees?
Yes, for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for coming. This has been power packed, especially if you had a chance to hit the chat. Make sure you do so. If anyone would like to maybe open it up with some first takes on something that stood out to you, maybe we can start generating some dialogue or having some questions. So I'll just roll this mic out, and anyone who's interested can weigh in. First takes.
Tangy, it sounds like you're doing a lot.
Oh, go for it.
What is your work day like? For something very simple, what is a typical work day like for you?
So a typical work day is waking up in the morning, taking a look at my different Slack channels, because all of the organizations that we work with, they have different Slack channels. And then once I take a look at the Slack channels, I'm really big at that human connection. So I really, even though I'm in tech, I love speaking to people because things could get lost in translation. So I look at who I actually need to speak to and reach out to, and say, hey, let's have a meeting. And then if there's any emails, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I write out my emails, but I put them through Gemini. I'm like, Gemini, please help me. So any emails, then I do my emails after my human connections. And then I have meetings with my teams. And then from there, it's putting out fires, building relationships, innovating. So that's my normal work day.
Is that a good day?
That's a wonderful day because I love doing different things.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Lauren, I think it was you that wanted to weigh in, and I'd like to throw it over to Leticia after that if she's open.
I was trying to keep my mouth shut. Ooh, woman. Oh my God. Incredible. I don't know if you're into product management, right?
So the company is software development. So we do product management, we do software development. So it encompasses everything from the back end to the front end to things that are or even we do technical training as well. So a lot of things that are client facing as well.
Man, I want to work with you. But let's just put that aside. Anyone who's listening needs to hear what she said, because if you follow the process that Ms. Frederick put out there, it will save you so much drama and rework on the back end. She spent so much time on the organization and the operations of it before implementation. And those of us who are remiss, or we will be remiss if we go in the opposite direction, if we do implementation first and then perpetually putting out fire. So thank you so much. That was incredible.
You're very welcome. Yeah, because a lot of clients, they come to me, like I said, and they say, what AI tools should I use? I'm like, that's such a loaded question. There's so many different companies out there, so many different use cases. It's a lot, right? So as individuals, when we can hone down and actually, and also speak to our teams as well and say, hey, what problems are you facing? And spend a little bit of time to find out how we can help. So yes.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. And I agree with you, Lauren. I saw you blowing up the chat and I was right there with you, girl. Leticia, welcome to the room. We're glad that you made it. And also, I think it was a great recommendation that we all get connected. So if you haven't done so, scroll up, because a lot of us have dropped our LinkedIns. If you haven't done so, or you want to drop it again so that we can all get bashed up, let's make sure that we add to each other's network. There are several conferences coming up later as well, so I want to make sure I have time to announce that. But Leticia, if you're open, or if anyone else would like to get on the mic, this would be a great time. I have a question actually about it, so I want to go next.
Okay, so thank you, Hassan. This is Leticia. I'm in purple and I have on my pearls. And I want to say, Tangy, your presentation was so amazing. I was trying to type down copious notes during your presentation, and I'm going to implement your strategies immediately in a digital native and digital visitor realm in higher education. The strategies that you gave us, or gave us right now, I think there's 31 people in this virtual room, is very helpful to help us with the work that we're already doing. So thank you, Tangy. I look forward to being connected with you and everybody else here on LinkedIn and continue to do the good work. I'm complete.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And let me know if you have any questions. I'm here to help.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I actually want to get into the weeds with you a little bit. I really did appreciate a couple of the features that you talked about, in particular, the courage to do some A/B testing rather than go all in on something that seems cool off the marketplace. You also talked about the time to actually do the R&D, which I think is sometimes a neglected part of the budget, and then the investment in time. My question, when you get with organizations that may be working in this lane for the first time, do you find that there is much tolerance for mistakes, because there's going to be some things that you just can't answer until you get along the way, if that makes sense? So what kind of resistance have you had when someone brings you on, but then the rubber starts to meet the road?
That is a great question. So of course, in organizations, you're going to have individuals who are like, I'm all in. And then you're going to have a few individuals who are thinking, well, AI, I don't want it to take my job, and so forth. So the thing that we actually do is we actually start with going in and just doing a quick introduction on what AI is. And then we do an hour workshop, right? An hour hands-on workshop to show them, hey, you know what? Let me show you why AI isn't going to take your job. Or, we understand that you may be a little resistant, but let me show you why. And towards the end of that, they understand that there's still critical thinking that needs to be done. And they're like, wait a minute, okay, AI isn't going to take my job, or this could help mitigate a whole lot of errors or risk, and I can be a better leader, right? So by doing that very quick intro to let's talk about what AI is, to, okay, let's just do an hour workshop to show you how to use AI. And I think sometimes individuals are a little apprehensive is because they haven't really used it and they may be a little afraid to actually use it and implement. I'm all about implementing, but I'm also about planning as well. So once they start playing around with it, they're like, okay, it's not as bad. And some people still resist because that's just their nature. And some people are like, okay, now I understand it a lot better because I actually used it. So I'm not as afraid as before.
I think that's one of the key things is your ability, from what I've heard in your presentation, to be nimble in the situation. So I'm really excited to learn as much as I have, and to try to at least implement some of the basics. I see a few other people on screen, Latoya and Calvin. Would you guys like to ask a question or come off the mic?
Yeah, I would love to, not to interrupt at all. But yes, I just want to say thank you for just the in-depth explanation of use cases of how it can benefit people and enterprise as well. I guess you can say I'm kind of have a question more so about once you introduce it to an internal team, what would be the main things you focus on for them to understand how it can be integrated in a human way? You kind of mentioned it, but like, what are like principles that you like to focus on so that they can understand just how you can use this, where it's not replacing your job, but it's actually assisting you and making you a better person at your job? How do you kind of
Right. So the initial thing is coming up with a list of things, a list of tasks that they feel like they can use help with, whether it's with technology or without technology. What are the things that, like for me, I don't, I love human interaction. I don't like doing a bunch of emails. I don't like doing a bunch of Slack messages. So they list all of the things that aren't necessarily their superpowers, like their weakness, right? And then they list the things that they're really good at. I like not only really good at, but the things that they shine in, and other people say that they shine in. So then looking at that list, saying, okay, look at all of these things that you actually shine in, and look at these few weaknesses that you have, or not even weaknesses, things that you want assistance with. Okay, let's take your superpower and let's figure out what sidekick you can have to actually take care of those things that you aren't so great at. Because we're all not great at certain things, right? And just think of it as a person. Don't think of it as a machine. What would you like this person to do, right? Whether you're an employee in a company, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a solopreneur, what are some things that you would like a person to do? And then look at AI that can help with those tasks, right? So that you can shine and you can do the wonderful things that you're able and love to do, and help others or whatever it is you may want to do. Did that answer your question?
Yes, and just kind of to paraphrase it, you kind of want them to put a spotlight on their specialness as a person so that they can develop a vision for how the AI can assist them.
Exactly. Well put. Yes, exactly.
Okay, I caught the tail end, so I do apologize. Mommy duties took over. So my question is, since I found it on YouTube, I'll be watching it in a little bit. So my question is I am shifting. I'm very big on AI. Everybody that knows me is learning, and Toya, can it do this? Can it do that? So, but I work as a web designer, and a graphics designer. So when it comes to, I am now shifting, most of my clients are starting to be more nonprofit. So I'm now shifting and specializing in nonprofit. And we all know, especially in the African-American community and the Black foundational American community, we're dealing with a lot of people and a lot of organizations that have a little bit of access to do things, but yet they've got 1,000 things to get done. So one of the things is I've been showing them is how to write those thank you letters, how to get those grants written, how to use AI to do those research, or if your members are more senior and don't like social media, how to start creating with it social media posts, and all they have to do is now Toya teach you how to use Canva and take that social media, throw it in Canva, and then y'all can put it on your post. So how or what are some things that you would say, because I apologize again, I don't know if you went over this, but what further, how could I go about further getting or picking the right AI to help these nonprofits, because again, like you said, some of them are, I don't know about that computer mess. They don't, and then if it's not, they don't want to deal with it. It's how can I ask it? And they're afraid they're going to ask the wrong question, or they do ask the wrong questions and they go down a rabbit hole of things they didn't necessarily need. So what would you recommend would be some either good quality questions or good quality items to do with them in order to get them to the right type of AI for them, for these nonprofit organizations?
So for that's actually a good question. We're actually working with a nonprofit organization. We work with the Urban League, basically. We work with the Urban League of Broward County. And one key thing is, I personally speak to the head of that organization, because let me paraphrase real quick. So with them, there's underrepresented individuals like ourselves, right? So we actually help teach their community, right? Or our community, not their community, our community. So the initial thing that I usually do is I speak to the head within that organization and find out what the pain point is, and what they think it is for, I like to call it their clients, right? And then once I'm figuring out what the pain point is for their clients, then I'm able to say, okay, these are the different types of AI to use. And I wouldn't overwhelm them with, 4 or 5 different types of platforms to use. I would say, okay, let's just focus on this one. And then from that one, you can find out if it's a success. Is it a success? Is it not? Are there things that that they're gravitating to more than others? So I don't know if did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. It helps me to narrow down what things I'm going to be giving to them based off of that.
Yes.
Because most of them, all they know is ChatGPT.
Yes,
and
there's a lot.
that in itself is a lot for them. And I'm like, y'all have no idea.
Yeah. Even breaking that down, right, into small pieces.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Latoya, when we were at the conference last night, we had that very same question come up again, which was trying to address the barriers to get members of our community who may not be experts in this space, but it could really enhance whatever they're already doing. There's still that some sort of, I don't know, it's this abstract resistance to what this opportunity.
Government fear.
It's a fear thing. Yeah. It has a lot rooted in that. What do you think about that, Tangy? Have you found, just in terms of what you've done with the nonprofit work, that there's also that fear component, or are people excited in your circles?
Both. There's fear and then there's excitement.
Even within the same organization?
Oh yeah, completely.
Wow.
Completely. And I think it's because we've all grown up in different ways, and we all have different personalities and so forth. So you may have someone who's totally against it, and you may have someone who's like, yeah, I love it. So it's essentially kind of like that, meeting them in the middle. And like I was telling, like I said during the presentation, it's also what you want to do is show them, hey, we have a voice here. We want to make sure as Black and Brown individuals that our voice is being heard. So you know what? I understand you're a little afraid, but now is the time where we can actually make a difference and make history like we're making today and this week, right? For Blacks in AI. So this is an opportunity where I know it may seem scary, but just come to this workshop. You can make history. You know what I mean? And you can help not only yourself, but your grandkids, your great-great-grandkids, and so forth. So maybe seeing it from that perspective and explaining it from that perspective, they'll look at it a little differently. And we're not telling you to jump in. We're not telling you to jump in, dip a toe in. So sometimes I think people think, oh my God, AI, because they hear it so much and they see it so much, it's overwhelming. So just based off of their personality and so forth, just say, you know what, just dip a toe in.
We are at the first National Black AI Literacy Week live on YouTube, here at the Zoom, popping things off. So we're glad that you're here. I do want to make an announcement. Of the 30 people who are here, many of whom are still just in the listen only mode, which is preferred so we can manage the stage. I did want to point your attention to the chat. At the top of the next hour, we're going to have Stefan Youngblood, who's actually in the room and the primary sponsor of this entire week-long event, is going to be hosting our next workshop. So make sure that you get a chance to do that. It's actually going to be one of the most hands-on experiences that you've ever had. So when I met him just a few days ago, it's hard to count, but he's been really instrumental in getting me involved in this space and serving as a leader in my own way. So I'm glad that we're going to have a chance to do that. It also is a call to action. So if you could copy that link and send it onto your social media so that we can get other folks who may not have been able to make this hour reminded that there is another workshop coming up so that we can continue the momentum, I would certainly appreciate that as well. Tangy, if we could, just before we close out, maybe I can pass it to Patty for some final thoughts and then get a few others to weigh in. What do you have coming up next, or what can we look forward to? Do you have any other sessions this week? Or if someone wanted to do business with you, what would be a good way for us to initiate communication?
Yes, thank you for asking. So right now my company and I, we're doing a lot of AI workshops, not only AI workshops, we're helping individuals and companies who are wanting to upskill their existing talent in technology. There's a certification called CompTIA. It's a CompTIA certification that's known in the industry, and it's known internationally. So we help train and upskill individuals so that they can get upskilled, so that they can improve their skills within their existing IT jobs, careers, or if they're looking to get into IT. So that's what we're currently doing now. And we're also doing, again, a lot of AI workshops. The best way to get in contact with me is I'm actually going to put my LinkedIn link in the chat right now. For those who are listening and may not be able to see the LinkedIn chat, my name is spelled Tangy. It's Tangy, and last name Frederick, Frederick. You can find me on LinkedIn. And thank you so much. I really appreciate being here.
TangyFrederick. Take a moment, get to LinkedIn, make sure that we take this time to follow her. Let's blow up her LinkedIn and do as much as we can to expand her network. There are a few questions that came into the chat. So if we could spend the last few minutes maybe representing those voices who didn't come on screen. One came from, well, Lauren's been here, so let me try to go to this other one. Speaking to the difference between ChatGPT free and enterprise versus ownership. What do you think about those differences, and is it worth the investment?
So if you look at it from an organizational standpoint, I would say Copilot. I would say use Copilot. But if you're just thinking of ChatGPT, yes, you can go ahead. I think it's worth the subscription if you're talking about the monthly subscription. But yeah, I would definitely look at it from the Copilot perspective, because OpenAI uses Copilot uses OpenAI. So, yeah.
Right. They have an interesting relationship.
Mhm.
One other question came in around Llama versus GPT 4.0. Any thoughts on that?
So honestly, guys, I use Gemini more than ChatGPT, and I'll tell you why.
Raising the roof.
I just want to be transparent. Because I found that ChatGPT is very pleasing, like it'll give you the politically correct answer. And I found that Gemini is more, there's less gates. You know, I don't know if you can visualize what I'm saying, but I feel like there's more room and a little bit more creativity where when I use ChatGPT, it's very narrow, the response. I feel like, so that's why, so I'm just going to be transparent with you. I'm all about Gemini. So yeah.
Appreciate you. Make sure we're using these last 7 minutes to try to get the word out. At the top of the hour, we're going to have Stefan Youngblood doing a hands-on style workshop regarding AI. The link has already been dropped in the Zoom. We're going to see what we could do to get it out to others. So if you follow anyone, make sure that you get it out to folks who might be interested. Patty, I'd like to see if you have any thoughts in terms of last words or anything that you'd like to announce.
No, but this has been wonderful. A little bit of it was over my head, but I'll go back and watch the YouTube. But I wanted to say we probably need to go ahead and close because we need to transition into another meeting. And everyone has Tangy's information. I know she will be there for you all if you have questions. So keep that going and give her lots of business. Let everyone know about her. And thank you all again for coming. Stefan, did you have anything as we close out the meeting?
I think he may have already headed over.
Okay, all right.
No, I'm good. I'm good. I was sorry, I was over here listening in the background, so I'm good. It's amazing to see all these people here, y'all. This is incredible.
Yes, this is
Yeah.
wonderful. Okay, Stefan, if you'll go ahead and close us out, and you all come to the next meeting if you're available.
All right.
Thank
See
you.
y'all. We're gonna close it in
Yes.
5. I saw Vashawn. What's up, Vashawn? 4, 3, 2, and 1.